Hello and welcome to Exploited Crimes and Technology. My name is Opal Singleton and we come to you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock right here on AM 590, The Answer. Well, this show was brought to you by an organization called Million Kids, millionkids.org. We're a local organization out of Riverside, but we have and do work all across the nation. And our goal, our mission in life is to keep kids safe from predators. And that means we talk about things like sex trafficking and social media exploitation and child sexual abuse materials and things like that. And we've been doing that now for going on 14, almost 15 years. Been involved in so many cases, it makes my head spin. And it changes a lot because of technology. People say, well, what is human trafficking and what's the difference between that and, let's say, prostitution? Well, in many times, sex trafficking is forced prostitution. A lot of times what will happen is a person will think, okay, I'm young, I'm good looking, and I want to have a lot of fun and I want to make some money. And they get out into the world of commercial sex and it seems to work for them initially. But then someone will come along and want to exploit them, to make money off of them, to increase what they do, put them in webcam sex sometimes and things like that. All too often, though, it's our young people. And this is the reason why Million Kids exist. This is the reason why we have, for the last 14 years, done so much work in prevention and intervention. Because it's just a travesty. You get a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old girl out there, and she'll either hook up with some guy online or at the mall or one of those dating sites. And all too often, it's somebody like a gang person in Southern California. 90% of sex trafficking is gang related, where the girl has hooked up and fallen in love and thinks this guy's going to be her be all and end all and take care of her and like that, and her life becomes a living nightmare. Well, that's how it goes from just having commercial sex to becoming a victim of trafficking. The reason I'm bringing this up is because right now we're getting ready for the Super Bowl. And anytime there's a Super Bowl, there's this whole bit of hullabaloo about sex buying and sex selling and sex trafficking. And I've been involved in that myself for a long time of combating sex trafficking at a Super Bowl. But that's what I want to talk about a little bit today, about how real is this? Now, first of all, I'm over the moon excited about the Super Bowl. I've been watching all the games going up, and I love the Kansas City Chiefs. I love the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not sure who I'm going to root for, because I like them both, and it's been some amazing games this season, so many times going into overtime, and so much skill and athleticism. These people train hard, they're disciplined, they are work as a team and get out there to win these games. And it is a real pleasure to watch Super Bowl or watch the games leading up to the Super Bowl. So I'm looking forward to it. It is in New Orleans this year and at the Caesars Superdome. And so I'm really looking forward to it. Scheduled kickoff time, if you don't know, is 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on February 9th. And I'll be right there in front of the TV with all my friends rooting everybody on. I'm not even sure. Depends on if I get in a pool or not, who I'm gonna cheer for, I guess. But anyway, it's really going to be a special thing. But with every Super Bowl comes a whole lot of advertising and articles and like that about the increase of sex trafficking around a Super Bowl. And people ask me, is that really true? And, there's some truth to it. But I think that I'd like to kind of share with you my perspective on that. Now, I got involved with working with law enforcement in the Super Bowl. I think it was about 2016, 2018, where I actually, hid in a dark room and did all the computer work for law enforcement to see where the sex ads were going and who was for sale so that they could go out and do their undercover kind of meetups. So there's all kinds of activity that takes place around a Super Bowl. Some of it is online where they're advertising and setting up dates, and then a lot of it is live right there. There is an increased focus on combating this because what happens here is so many times you will get pimps and predators and sex workers brought all across the United States to a big event because that is where all the traffic is. And that's where people go away from their home. A lot of times they're excited, they're engaged, and they're thinking, okay, I'll do something I don't normally do. And when I did that particular Super Bowl background investigation kind of project, I worked with law enforcement and I did a kind of unique thing. Now, I will tell you that because I work in fighting human trafficking, I am very familiar with the sex ads and how they work and like that, because that's how we find our victims, the ones that are being advertised out there. So I did a thing it was up by Santa Clarita, I believe. And the week before the Super Bowl, I did a survey of everybody that was for sale online so that I would know who the normal activity was. And then during the Super Bowl, that way I would know if this was somebody brought in from the outside or a local person kind of thing. And then I did the same kind of survey a week after the Super Bowl. What I was looking for is there really an increase? Is this real that you're hearing about all the hype? What I found was that there was about a 15% increase at that particular Super Bowl. Now, that's been quite a long time ago, quite frankly. But it was interesting to me because I thought to myself, is there only a 15% increase because everybody made it very loud and clear that if you go out and try to do sex purchasing of a person that is underage or a person that's being forced into it, you will be identified and arrested. And so there is the effort to keep the activity down. And I do think that it's worth it to put that word out there and let people know. You know, when you get picked up for sex buying, it's a life-changing kind of experience because it's a public record. You're not going to get that off your record in most cases. Now, there are some cities that allow John schools where if you get picked up, you can pay a significant amount of money. I think it's like $1,000 or $800 and go to a John school and learn all about sex trafficking. And assuming you don't get picked up again for another year, you can get it off your record. But it is a life-changing event because your reputation is out there for 1 year. And the fact that you've been arrested goes on your record. It goes on your work record if anybody does background checks on you. Same kind of thing if you're trying to get into a college or university or military. They do background checks and that will pop up. So it's worth it to understand what is at risk here. But what I did find was that there is an increase, but it's not quite as big as everybody is making out. And I will tell you after the break, we're going to come up here on a break in a minute, but I'll tell you after the break how I found other venues that seem to draw equal amount of attraction. The first thing that comes to mind, if you've ever been to Las Vegas and they're having the electronics show or maybe one of their engineering shows, they have people out on the street everywhere handing out flyers about how you can hook up with somebody somewhere. The same kind of thing takes place now online, by the way. They do all kinds of advertising if they know that you have purchased Super Bowl tickets or if you've enrolled and registered for an engineering kind of conference. It's called artificial intelligence. It's no different in my case. You know, if I go online and I buy, I don't know, a new blouse or a fancy pair of shoes, the next thing you know, they're offering me like kind of shoes within 15 seconds. It feels like, now that's an exaggeration. But let's face it, with artificial intelligence, anything you do, they're going to be able to track that. And so there aren't going to be any secrets in the future. We need to think that out as we go. So I'm going to go into a little bit about sex selling around Super Bowls and big events in the next section. So stay with me, okay? My name is Opal Singleton. This is brought to you by Million Kids, and we are coming up against that break, so be right back. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of millionkids.org. I believe the four most powerful words on earth are I believe in you. So we created a challenge coin that says, I believe in you on one side and stand tall, you are loved on the other side. This one-of-a-kind challenge coin is a perfect gift for birthdays, anniversaries, graduation, Christmas presents, or just an anytime gift for someone you love. What a powerful message for a parent or a grandparent to give to a young person. This 2-inch coin is made of polished gold. It's striking to look at, and it is priceless to hold. It is packaged in a beautiful black velvet gift box. What a great way to leave a legacy of love that will last forever. To purchase this coin, go to millionkids.org/gallery. Each coin is $25. Go to millionkids.org/gallery to purchase and give a legacy of love.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This show is brought to you by Million Kids, millionkids.org. We're a local organization that does everything we can to keep our kids safe from predators. And we've been doing that 15 years. If you want to support our work, feel free to do that by going to millionkids.org and hit that donate button. We would truly appreciate it. So I wanted to go on with my experience of working with the Super Bowl about 5-6 years ago. It was up north, up by, I want to say Santa Clarita, but I can't really remember. Anyway, it's not too far from San Jose where it was. Anyway, so what I did is I did a survey of sex buying and sex selling the week before the Super Bowl, and then the week after, and then the week of to see if it increased. And yes, it did increase about 15%. Now, that particular Super Bowl, they invested millions of dollars in advertising to let you know that if you went on and decided to buy sex at this particular Super Bowl, that you would get caught and that they are tracking this kind of thing. I did some research on some others. What I did before I go back to Super Bowl is I got to thinking about, well, what percentage of that impact was because, of all the hype around it. And then what about other venues? I mean, not just Super Bowl. That's not the only one where everybody, certainly it's big, okay, but not the only one where people come together. And so what I did is I did the same kind of operation out for the Coachella deal that they have out there, the music festival. And I surveyed all the basic sex ads the week before in the area, and then the week during, and then the week after. And there was about a 45% bump there. Now, the truth is the numbers were quite low. And it looked like to me that the initial local people there are living out in a mobile home somewhere in the desert. So it isn't probably apples and apples, it's apples and oranges. I get it. But it was interesting to see that it gets very little hype for that kind of thing compared to Super Bowl. And yet there's 100,000 people, I think it is, that go out there to Coachella. So then I got to thinking about it. Well, I've seen all that stuff in Las Vegas during the engineering conferences. What about Palm Springs? They have engineering conferences out there. And so I did the same kind of exercise the week before, the week after, and the week of an engineering conference. And it was interesting to me the way that the numbers went much, much higher as far as percentages go, not necessarily the amount of activity being offered, but the percentages and the increase in the percentages. The other thing I found that was interesting on the engineering ads in the engineering conferences is that the sex ads came out on Sunday night and heavy on Monday morning. And I thought that was kind of fascinating. I thought you might enjoy hearing about that. Well, I started doing some research for you. And one of the things that I looked up ahead of the 2017 Super Bowl, so 7 years ago, this has been going on a long time. There was a nationwide sting operation across 15 states that led to 750 arrests related to sex trafficking, and this is Cook County, so that's Chicago area. More than 100 of those arrests were made in Houston, the host city of the Super Bowl. So what they're saying is that they believe that the trend is for sex buying increases around the time of the Super Bowl, even if you're not in the town where the Super Bowl is in. In the month leading up to the Super Bowl, online sex advertisements rose by 43% in Phoenix. Keep in mind, Phoenix is not the host location. Oh no, they were saying, let me clear that up. I misread something. In the month leading up to the 2023 Super Bowl, so last year's Super Bowl in Phoenix, the sex advertising increased by 43%. So substantially more than what happened when I was working up by the Bay Area. According to the AG, the Arizona Attorney General, 75% of the victims said they had been advertised or sold online. So one of the things I want to point out here is that while all of this is taking place with so many people, our vision is this is happening because of the fact that so many people are going to a Super Bowl. That's not necessarily the point of it. In 2023, 12% of the nation's human trafficking cases came out of California. Now, that's not unusual. California, I've been doing this 15 years now, and every year for the last 15 years, California has led the nation in the number of human trafficking cases. Now, people say, well, why is that? Why does California have more? Oh, there's lots and lots of reasons, but part of it is there's money that is being focused on combating trafficking out here, and not necessarily money coming to me, but money that is being focused on it out here. And so you'll find more of the victims. And quite frankly, I think we're very well organized to combat human trafficking. For the last 15 years, I've been the training and outreach coordinator for the Riverside County Human Trafficking Task Force. And so I have seen all the resources. Now, I'm not a victim service provider. I'm into prevention and intervention. That, for me, is what it's all about. It just breaks my heart to see a young girl, especially if she comes from the poor part of town and didn't already have a strong foundation in her family life she's looking for love, and all of us are. There's no one I know that isn't looking for someone to think they're special. And that's exactly how these kids get caught up in it. And so here in California, there is a major organized effort. Riverside County Human Trafficking Task Force is probably the very best in the nation. Now, I'm going to tell you that I'm prejudiced, okay? I don't disagree with that because I have been their training and outreach coordinator for the last 15 years. And I've seen a lot and done a lot. And I would say that it's... we're true leaders across the nation in this realm. And the other reason for that is that we have had 4 federal grants for our task force, and we've had a sheriff, and we've had sheriffs prior to this sheriff, for what it's worth, that have been committed to combating this. And I'm very proud to work with the sheriff that we currently have. He's taken on some very complex cases, and these cases are very, very difficult to investigate. And it also takes all we have to be able to prevent it, because one of the problems in helping victims that get involved in human trafficking is this idea that it'll never happen to me. That is the number one deal I deal with both kids and parents with both online exploitation, where some kid has sent a nude photo and they're being blackmailed, or the kid gets out there and the next thing you know, they're thinking that they've got this hot boyfriend that's going to take care of them, and they just believe it's that they're going to figure it out and they're not going to become victims. But once you get in that life, it's very, very difficult to get out, and that's why we do what we do. So it is a fascinating time in Super Bowl. I do believe that there is an increase in activity, maybe not to the numbers that they say, but the increase in activity. The thing that's very hard to evaluate, and what I want to talk about here in a minute, is the role of the fact that a lot of this is taking place online. We have a tendency to think that this is just all about going to New Orleans and finding somebody on the street, and that person on the street gets violated in sex trafficking, and that really doesn't have anything to do with us in Riverside, California. But one of the things that you do see is the number of online sex ads are greatly increased. And that means that the sex buying numbers are also increased. If this is the demand side of sex trafficking. If you don't have a demand, then you don't have, trafficking. It's that simple. And so what they're counting on is increasing the demand by increasing the contact through online activity. And so in the next section that we talk about when we come back after the break here, I want to talk about how online sex ads work and who is responding to all of this and what are the results of that. I also want to talk about some of the downsides of this, because so many people think I'm an adult and this is what I want to do. I have a right to do it. There's a lot of reasons why people buy sex, but they're unable to visualize the downside other than the fact that they might get arrested. People who are selling sex online are controlled by organized criminal organizations, and they will take a picture of you and start to blackmail you and your family. And this can get very, very dangerous. And so we want to talk about that side of it also. Okay, folks, it is break time, so I'm going to ask you to stay with it. My name is Opal Singleton, and this show is Exploited Crimes and Technology. Be right back.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the dark net will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton. I'm the president and CEO of an organization called Million Kids right here in Riverside. We've been doing this 15 years. And we have worked with the Riverside County Human Trafficking Task Force for a very long time. So we're not new to this. We've seen a lot. I never would have believed. And people ask me, how did you get involved in this? You seem like a regular person. How did this happen? I'm not sure I can tell you that. I just started one day and put one foot in front of the other long about 2010. And here we are today, still going down this road. But I got started because of a case that I had. Maybe I'll just share that with you without getting too explicit because it's confidential to the person. But, I initially got involved in this because I thought trafficking was all about foreigners, people coming up from south of the border and being put out for work in the fields and not getting paid and like that. And there is truth to that. There's a lot more of that than you'll ever know. And in fact, I'm very concerned about what's going on with all the deportation and like that, because there are people out there that are being trafficked that we haven't met yet. But they should never have been here in the first place. When you open a border and they come in and you don't know who you're getting, you're not vetting anybody. But on top of it, those people, by the very nature of that process, you're letting them live under the radar, if you will, and that makes them vulnerable. And anytime you have a vulnerable person, somebody can come along and take advantage of them and traffic them. But what happened for me back in 2012 is I met a family whose young daughter was trafficked. We had some gang members from Compton, California, that were brought over here to one of our very best high schools and were put in that high school for the female gang member to recruit other people. And that was the first time I'd ever seen that. Now I know that 60% of girls that are recruited in trafficking are recruited by another girl, and it's often a gang girl, and their life becomes living hell. I mean, these people, honestly, they're just, next thing you know, they're gone. And that's what happened to this young victim. Her family had no clue whatsoever what happened to her. One day she just didn't come home from high school. And she had been taken away by a trafficking gang, and she was gone for 9 months. And I later, in my time, sat down with that family, and they told me what it was like for them. They didn't know what happened to the girls. They didn't know who, if she was in trafficking or if she ran off with a boyfriend or if she had been murdered. She was gone 9 months. That's why, by the way, Million Kids runs Million Kids Missing Kids, because, literally 1 out of 6 kids who run away will be a victim of trafficking in the first 48 hours. And so it is important for the family, after they go to the police department, we do need a police report, but we will send out literally tens and tens and tens of thousands of flyers and have been involved in bringing other people home. But once I saw that, then I realized that how are we going to train our students, our kids, our young people on how this works so that they don't become victims? The girl who was involved in that particular thing, she's a phenomenal young lady, very, very smart, and had a strong family background. And but think about how vulnerable somebody is that has a broken family or they're in foster care and they don't have a foundation, how quick and easy it is for someone to come along and say, hey, your life's really messed up. Come with me and I'll take care of it. Make a lot of money and we'll have a good time. And off they go. And that's how it happens. And this is the reason why we combat it. What I wanted to talk about, back to the Super Bowl thing, one of the things that came out in all of this, and by the way, one of the things I really want to encourage you to do is follow millionkids.org. millionkids.org. Ask for our newsletter, and once a week we release a newsletter. And it has all kinds of information in it. In this particular one that I'm looking at, this came out from, it's called In the News. and it's done by a lady named Dina Murray, who used to live here in California but lives in the Midwest. She is phenomenal, by the way. What a tremendous asset she is to us in our zest to keep kids out of all of this. But she was reading a study here that was done by a company called Demand Abolition. So they obviously are against sex buying. It's an older article and an older research, but it was really quite interesting. They're saying in this that only about 6.2% of respondents have bought sex within the past 12 months. Now, I don't know how they get their numbers. I don't know if they're hanging out on street corners or they're doing, anonymous surveys online. Now, that's an older study. And what I'm going to tell you is that I believe the amount of sex buying has gone up enormously because a lot of people get involved in webcam sex. And they, by the way, they forget that live stream device works both ways. And pretty soon they've been filmed and now they're being blackmailed. This is the danger of getting yourself involved in an underground economy, because most of these sex ads are on servers that are what we call bulletproof hosting. They are in sites around the world that don't ask, don't tell. Sites like Malaysia and Iceland is a big one, China, Russia. And so what happens is that they put all of the sex ads out there on that, and they're particularly foul, quite frankly. And I don't think I'm a prude. I've been in this business for 15 years. That they have become increasingly degrading of human beings because nobody asks any questions, and you can do whatever you want on those online sites. The problem with the online sites is that you don't know who owns them and who's filming you, or who is providing your entertainment. And so a lot of these are now taking place online. So I think that number of 6.2% has gone up enormously since this particular study. It says high-frequency buyers purchase so often that their actions account for a big, disproportionate large share of the legal sex trade. So they're saying that there aren't the majority of the people aren't buying it, but the ones that do buy it often. And it's disproportionate in how the whole industry is operated. They're saying that demographic traits are poor predictors of sex buying. So what they're saying is it's all kinds of people who make a lot of money, people who make less money, people that are executives, and people that are day-to-day workers. The other thing it says are 1 in 5 men who've never bought sex before, but they could envision themselves buying sex in the future if the circumstances were right. One of the things that I want to help with that is to help them understand that while the circumstances may look right, you may not understand all that's happening with the circumstances. We had a big ring that was happening here in Southern California of Thai massage parlors. And these girls are brought in from Thailand. They are absolutely in debt bondage. They owe their pimp like $50,000 or $60,000. They get none of the money that they are making by having either webcam sex or having one-on-one sexual encounters. And so this is why it becomes trafficking, is that they're totally enslaved. They try to make that look like they're there willingly, but they're totally enslaved. If you had participated in one of those events, one of the things that was happening there is it was ran by a Bangkok cartel. And they are more than happy to take a photo of you. They are more than happy to blackmail you. And you are exposing yourself and your family to an overseas cartel. And you have to remember that before you decide that you want to get into that. It was interesting here. They're saying that the average sex buying at this point, and this is an older finding, was about $100 a transaction. Well, one of the challenges now is a lot of this can be done online, especially if you're starting through webcam sex, because you have all of these online transaction capabilities, and you now have a lot of online that's encrypted. And so it becomes increasingly dangerous for yourself. And I can tell you right here that most of the people that are providing the services are not there willingly. These are people that are entrapped in sex trafficking rings, and that makes it particularly serious in those cases. Well, folks, we're up against another break, so I'm going to ask you to stay with us, and we're going to be right back, and we'll close this out. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited, Crimes and Technology. I want to tell you about a book I wrote called Seduced, The Grooming of America's Teenagers. It's all about how predators access, groom, recruit, and exploit our young people using social media, online gaming, video chat rooms. Technology is changing at the speed of light, and we have to understand how to keep our kids safe from predators. So you can get this book by going to www.millionkids.org. It's $16. I'll sign it and I'll ship it to you personally. We hope that you will order this book, educate yourself about how to keep our kids safe in this day of changing technology. Join us each Saturday for our radio show at Exploited, Crimes and Technology at 3 o'clock on AM 590. The Answer. Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. We are talking about sex buying, sex selling, and especially related to the Super Bowl. So it is true that these big events like Super Bowl attract pimps and predators all across the nation. And whether or not you're even in that particular city. And I can guarantee you that the number of sex ads going up around New Orleans is going to increase substantially. I can also guarantee you that there has been millions of dollars put into law enforcement to make certain that they keep the number of people that are being violated from victims of sex trafficking down. One of the problems with all of this is buyers think that prostitution is mostly a victimless crime. I hear that over and over and over about, well, if a woman wants to sell her body, shouldn't she be allowed to do that? That is not sex trafficking. And that what happens there is when all of a sudden she no longer has control of her own universe. And then suddenly she is being put into positions where she doesn't even get that money. And that's when it really goes wrong. It also goes wrong because this is usually organized crime doing it, either groups of pimps or individual pimps, and they are taking the money and they are looking for money any way they can get it. And that includes blackmailing as sex buyers. So it's an interesting kind of phenomena that goes on. It isn't just the Super Bowl. It goes on all the time, which is why we're here. One of the things that I can tell you is that I have, over the years, worked with victims that have said, you know, I went into it. I thought that I had control of it. I thought that's what I wanted to do. I got involved in it because I was going to pay my college tuition because I couldn't afford it. Or young girls that say, you know, mom and dad were getting a divorce and they were fighting every night. And I found this guy and he told me everything I wanted to hear. And then pretty soon you're out there and you literally, and now this is not true across the board, but if you're a minor, if you're a young person, the average lifespan of a young person that starts into sex trafficking, 13, 14, 15 years old, and that's exactly what we're working to prevent. Their average lifespan is only about 7 years along. They get HIV, STDs, hepatitis, drug-related diseases, and horrible abortions. So it's really, really serious business. And that is why Million Kids does what we do. You know, if people want to engage as adults and they do it respectfully and not harm each other, I'm not in that universe. Where I'm at is keeping our kids safe. And this is getting more and more challenging because with so much activity taking place online, you have literally 1 out of 6 girls, well, I've got that number wrong, 1 out of 7 girls and 1 out of 6 guys have sent a nude pic online. And that immediately makes them vulnerable to blackmail. We need to have that conversation with our kids, by the way. Don't get started there, because a lot of times that's how it starts, is this kid sends a photograph and they get out there and somebody starts to blackmail them and they panic and their lives change, and it changes dramatically. I always say that when you first start talking about sex trafficking and online exploitation with your child, I suggest you get a contract between you and your child. You know, if they're old enough to talk about sex trafficking, if they're old enough to have a phone, you need to make sure they're old enough to talk about sex trafficking, because there is a connection between online sexual exploitation and sex trafficking and going online and being able to be reached online. And also, it becomes infinitely more likely that a person will become a victim if they've already sent a nude and they're being blackmailed. So get a contract with your young person. You know, say, I'm going to have every app you have, and we're going to understand them together. And you're never going to send anything online that we would embarrass us. And number 3 is that you will never, ever, ever, never go out and meet up with someone you meet online. And number 4 is, if you get yourself in trouble, you will trust me enough to come to me and tell me, so that we can help you work through it together. This is adult business. These people play for keeps, and it's very serious business, and it's our children that we are fighting for, and like that. I would give you one more idea, and that is that as a family, you develop a code word between you. I like wackadoodle, but pick one, okay? Blue elephant, or, green lion, or whatever your word is, so that you know, in fact, if anything ever happens in your family, that you are talking to a family member. This is really important. Well, folks, we're coming to the end of the show. This show is brought to you by an organization called Million Kids. I hope that you appreciate the work and that all that has happened for us right here in the Riverside area, San Bernardino area, to keep our kids safe from predators. We go out, we train parents, we train kids, we go into schools, we handle real cases, we're involved on a day-to-day basis. We do the Million Kids Missing Kids program to literally help find kids who've run away, and because they're just so vulnerable that they're out there. If you're willing to support our work and want to be able to do something with our work, one of the things we're doing right now is the Foster Kids Bedding Program. That's a $75 donation, and we get a comforter and a set of matching sheets and a pillow that matches, a decorative pillow, and a toy, or maybe it's a football or a sports item or a dragon or Spider-Man or all of those kinds of things. If you want to help a foster kid and you want to join in, it's a short-term program, only going to go on for another 2 weeks, and it's $75. You just send it into millionkids.org. If you go into millionkids.org, you'll get our P.O. box. And if you want to make a donation other than that, we'd certainly appreciate your help. It is millionkids.org, P.O. Box 7295, Riverside, California. We are a public benefit 501c3 nonprofit organization that has a stellar reputation, and we have been doing this for 15 years. It isn't just me, by the way. There's a whole team of us that go out, and some of them have specialties. One of them is private investigator on child sex crimes, and another one is a retired sheriff from the San Bernardino Sheriff Department, and another one is a pastor that is a female pastor that is involved in a church, especially against combating drugs and homeless people. There's a whole group of us that do this, and we appreciate all of your help. We're an incredible organization. We stay small. That is our our choice to do that. We're not interested in building big corporations. But if you want to put your money where it makes a difference and changes lives and helps kids, then go to meandkids.org and hit that donate button. We'd surely, surely appreciate it. Well, folks, I hope you enjoy the Super Bowl. I intend to. I love football, and I'm thinking that this is going to be a dynamite game out there, regardless of who wins on it, one way or the other. Now, I know some of you don't agree with that. You have your own team, and you're going to do it. So, but I think that the Super Bowl is a very special event. You know, one of the things that I so admire when I watch that football is all these healthy young people. And I watch a lot of college ball too, for what it's worth. Healthy young people that get out there and discipline themselves and set goals and do teamwork and pay attention and look out for each other and strive to win as a team. And in the last couple of games, it's just been so rewarding. I saw the Eagles opening ceremony where they had the huge flag and the national anthem and the eagle flying over that. That just takes your breath away when you see that eagle flying over that stadium. I don't know if they'll have it again in New Orleans or not. I don't know how they get that eagle to fly over all those people and still come back. I wouldn't. But anyway, how exciting it is. It's such a positive experience to share with your kids and share with your family and like that. But I do hope that you will remember that this is an event where others are sometimes exploited, and we need to take a stand against that. If there's no sex buying, there's no sex selling. And it's as simple as that. We need to understand how it works and say to our people, you know, you're better than that. Don't get yourself involved in it. So I hope that this week you have a great time with your family. I really encourage you to put your arms around your family. Look at your spouse and tell them how proud you are of them. Look at your kids and let them know, you know, the 4 most powerful words on earth are I believe in you. And let them hear those words from you. They need to hear it. And by the way, Mom and Dad, so do you. This is Opal Singleton. We're signing off. See you next week, 3 o'clock on Saturday.